So let's show you what I got here. So this is what I call the documentation flywheel, right? It's a Git repository that could be a wiki or pushed to a SharePoint site. Uh, Regardless, it's really just a bunch of markdown files and some pipeline automations, some D2 diagrams that I'll show you, and then I use the AI to essentially process transcripts from people in meetings and create documents and visualizations. So the README is got all of this structure laid out. We'll go back over the principles here, but the the repository is set up in a way that it makes it easy for people and agents to consume and use. This context has all kinds of stuff about the company, every decision that's ever made, the processes, which I'll show uh, one of the process for the flywheel in there. The documents are actually D2 source, and it generates an SVG image that then you can embed in whatever else you want. I keep all the transcripts in this evidence folder or any other artifacts that you collect while you're gathering information. The inventory is all the applications we have. If we have any standards, we can go there. The templates are often my prompts. The automation is all the CI/CD pipeline, and then the meta is really data for the AI, and it has all the instructions on all the parts of it here. So let's go in here. This is just Visual VS Code, real lightweight editor, and all of the bits are in here, like say everything really. I mean, this is all made up information, but in your context folder, you have all about the company, different constraints, assumptions, goals, people, the different players. All of this gives context to either new people to the company or, agents. Our system landscape, all the decisions that were made is linked to each other, right? In our decision log, everything that was ever decided on this um, project or repository, and then the diagrams, right? Our um, source, it's this D2 language, right? I didn't create a Visio drawing and move boxes around. You write this little bit of code, and actually the AI writes this code, and then it generates images like this, right? From that text. More on that later. Um, like I said before, we have the evidence, we have the inventory, the processes, the actual flywheel itself. I have documented in here, and we'll go through that in a minute, and then standards. Anyway, that's just the structure, that's just the folder structure of it. Let's do some pretty slides. Okay, so it's documentation that maintains itself. Architectural decisions, process flows, really anything that you would want to document, and it's in a Git repository, so it has that built-in approval process. And then with the pipelines, the CD, continuous integration, continuous development pipelines, it'll push it all and render it all automatically once you build that. So what happens usually with any documentation on any system, somebody writes it, they put it out there, that person leaves or becomes old, and they get busy, and after X amount of time, nobody trusts it. It's in buried in somebody's folder somewhere, and nobody trusts it, right? And really, the constraint isn't the tooling. It's not any of the stuff that I have here really isn't that game changing. I think it's really the combination of tools that really makes it cool. And the big part is all of this information that we're essentially just pulling out of people's heads via in a meeting. They don't have to prepare anything for, right? So it's very easy. They don't have to prep anything. You just go into a meeting, ask some questions, take the transcript, and process it. The big parts, the I would say the key parts here is the text is also source, like their markdown files or D2, or it's text that's human readable, and readable by the AI, the model, right? The the docs, it's data. The raw data is just a bunch of YAML files. They're just text files. But then with the pipeline and a little bit of Python code, it generates the markdown files from that. So you don't have, like, I'm going to show you a couple different reports and different stuff that it generates. I don't, the code that runs in the pipeline generates it all. I don't have to manually manipulate, an Excel document somewhere, or inventory in a database, or whatever. The YAML files are the database. And automation over policy, we have inside of the pipeline, there's the schema thing that I'll show that kind of has the same functionality as a database. It'll catch when somebody edits something that doesn't work. I went over the different folders. Yeah, this is really about the like 17 YAML records, which this could be 17,000. It generates the summary views, and the details and the diagrams are all updated automatically. So that when those updates happen, if it doesn't match the schema, if it's a required field, part of the pipeline is checking that. And again, it's generated. I mean, originally some of this was developed, but once it's there, it's just part of the pipeline. You just change this raw YAML files or the raw text files, and the rest is just automated. That's the real meat of it. So let me get out of here. I went too far in the slides. So let's just show some of this. So, like, say, yeah, let me compress all this. So let's say in the inventory, in the apps, there's these data files. This is the real meat, okay? And it's just text. This can be set up however you want. The sky's the limit. And this is all made up data. But let's say someone comes in here and we're gonna make a new branch called like video fail. And let's say we want to make this say Mike, Bob, Joe, right? Which isn't a legit person. It's not that's me doesn't exist in this company, right? So test push fail. Right. So this is just regular source control. Don't let any of this, you know, overdo it. And if you're using Claude Code, it can do it for you. But we just changed a raw text file. We push that up, or we commit that. We push it up to our repository here. Oh wait, I should have went back. Go back. We create a pull request. This is the human in the loop part of it. So we we create a pull request that runs, it checks this stuff. Yep, we're gonna merge it, and then the pipeline kicks off, and you can watch that here. So this merge is happening, right? And it should fail, like right here. Yeah, see, look, test push fail. What does this say? What failed here? Oh yeah, validate. So validate inventory against schema failed. Okay, because I have in that pipeline a check here, the same as if I would run it in the command prompt here, which I think I can do. Render inventory, validate only. Yeah, see, this is telling you the same thing. So, pretty much saying that IT SME has a value of Mike, Joe, Bob, right? It's not in the list, right? But if I change it to Rachel, right? Let's try this and change it to her. Right, paste this. Wait, hang on, copy, paste, save. Okay, fix. Hopefully pass, which you would write better commit messages than this. All right, we're gonna push that up. Sync. Yep, same branch. Go back. Go back. Pull request. Does it just update it? Or do I gotta make a new one? Probably have to make a new one. Yeah, so branch. New pull request. Because it changed. And the thing that you would see here is well, let me just finish this, then I'll show you. But why I use a Git repository is so that you can see what changed, right? You can see files changed, right? From Mike, Bob, Joe to Rachel, okay? So once the AI is doing all this, you can see that change, okay? So the merge worked. And we're going to delete that branch so it doesn't get too confusing. And then this time, right? So merge. Now when it gets to the validate against schema, see, it passed, right? Same as here. If we run it just from the command line, right? 17 applications, 12 integrations passed, right? Cool. Very cool. And if you want to see that, the actual code in the automation, it's just a whole bunch of Python code, render inventory, right? Does a ton of stuff, right? It's making markdown files, it's doing validation, right? Here's a lot of the magic. It's kind of ridiculous. And then in here is the rendering the diagrams. It's running the D2 parser. And then another part of this is that I skipped, what I should have showed first is the gap analysis. Okay, so this script, well, when you run it, will show all of the gaps in this example in your inventory, right? So we use this. So applications with no SME recorded. So it's gone through all these apps here, and telling you what's missing, right? And then we use that to create the list and the interview to go gather that information, and round and round and round we go. So I'm gonna get to that, but we showed a couple slides, we edited the fix. Yeah, so let's show this. So we showed that, we showed this. Documentation flywheel. Let's show one of these diagrams changing. So this is a D2 language, you can look it up, but let's just say here, it's this D2 language, right? So it's text, and we use this so that we can use the AI to generate these visualizations, right? I didn't make this. Here it is. Yeah, integration landscape. Like, look at this thing. I didn't make this, right? It was generated based on the data. I'm not moving these boxes around, right? So when I make a change to this doc, let's just change this and say, make it go up, right? Save. I'm going to run this. Render diagrams. That should rebuild this. And then if I refresh this, see it changes it, right? It makes them go the other way or sideways or all these blocks, right? So cool. So that plus the pipeline plus now we get into the good stuff of the actual flywheel. So it's generated versus author, right? You got that. And the pipeline, we made those changes, it caught it. And if this was pushing like to some production website or SharePoint or whatever, wherever it was publishing to, like for the final consumption, if it failed the check, it wouldn't do that, right? They would have to fix it before they made their change. So then we get into the flywheel, right? And I'm going to show this drawing within it, but yeah, let's just look at that in here because it looks better. Where is, so for a process example would be, you could have all your processes in here, but this document, we got the purpose, the scope, the roles, and then this image, right? This D2 image was totally generated, right? I have all kinds of stuff, the interviews, how it works, and this, yeah. So actually, let's look at it in a web browser because it's an SVG image, right? So you can zoom in, zoom out, looks good. A little bit of a legend here. So what we do is, this is really the money, okay? We start with, I don't know if I guess we should start up here. So we run that gap analysis that I showed you, and that's the machine, right? The script or the AI running the script. It knows then what we're missing, okay? So then it generates the prep files for those meetings. We have the meetings, we gather the transcripts, we record the decisions, the insights, the summary, and we summarize it, right? And then start. Oh, right, yeah. So we update, based on the gap analysis. Man, I'm screwing this up. Based on the gap analysis, the register comes up with the actual questions that we're going to ask. Then we do the interview, right? We update what we ask the questions. That gets into the transcript, right? Then we process it, and that updates the register, creates more people that we need to interview, and then we approve with the Git repository. We approve the changes that it comes up with, and then go talk to people, right? Get the transcript, run that process again. It comes up with the gaps, creates more questions, and the interview bits. This is the just the prep files. Like, I'll get a prep file for each person, and then I go do that prep, right? But before you go do it, you take a look, you approve that in Git, that all is there. Then you go schedule and you do the interviews, you gather the transcripts, and round and round and round we go until you do like 50 interviews and you have a ridiculously well populated knowledge base, right? So let's just do one. So let's imagine that I went and talked to this guy. generated some fake. So this is the conversation that I had with this guy, right? So let's say, I would name it whoever it is, Marcus, right? And then data, put it in here, and then I come in with Claude and say process this interview, right? And we should see it's going to go, it's going to read that whole interview line by line and pull out all of the pertinent information to then update all of, if there's some integrations or if there's changes or if there's a process. It doesn't really matter if we were talking about a standard that has updated. It doesn't, in the prompt itself, right, which is what I referenced here, has all the instructions. So I can just open up a fresh um, uh, Claude code or any model for that matter, and I just give them the file, the transcript file, and then this prompt, and it has step one, two, three, four, five, six, all of it, right? This could be like a skill also. Tells it to run the render, run the gap analysis, and then update, for this example, then update the, where's my tracker? Yeah, evidence. Yeah, question register, right? So then this has, let's make that, this has who we need to go, who to talk to next, right? We go talk to Tom, we go talk to Sophia, right? And then these ones are not prepped, these ones are prepped. So I click this, these are the questions, right? It came up with all this. I'm just the meat puppet that has to ask this, and then they say whatever they say. We get that in the transcript, and round and round and round we go, right? So it's, see, it read everything, it's going and doing the stuff. And I think, so this one, let's close this. It actually has a change to this integration landscape. Like, so when we talk to Tom, let's refresh this. His bit is, oh, we have an integration between endpoint management and the the warehouse, right? So this right now is that, but after we get through this, is it done? So chink. Oh yeah, we also want to create a new branch. Let's call this Tom updates. Hopefully that didn't screw anything up. So he goes and he's reading all the stuff. He's reading what needs done. Read, yeah. So that's a big part, yeah. And then he'll should create a summary. So 3 things about the working tree. Transcript is in the wrong folder. Yeah. Let's go. Integration running since implementation recorded. Okay. Yeah. Proposed changes. Yeah. Okay. Question register. Yeah. Get on with it. Considered or rejected. Yeah, so make the changes. I shouldn't even really have to tell it that, but this is a brand new all demo fresh setup, so it's all made up stuff. As you would do this longer, it'll remember and it'll just know. You have to tell it less and less because it builds up the memory. Yeah, so then here he's gonna make his own branch. Okay. So create this endpoint to data warehouse record, update the plant historian, append insight rows, write a summary, I'll refresh the brief, yep, and then rerun the stuff, and round it goes. Okay, so let me show that. Yeah, so I didn't really show that part of the documentation flywheel. So what else happens is, as you're going around and people are pointing to each other, I have this insight surfaced markdown file, which just keeps getting added to as you're talking to different people and as you're flushing out the different problems. Like, we don't have a SME for this, or whatever it is, stuff that you wouldn't think of as you're going through this and you're documenting stuff, and the AI can see everything in your repository. It tracks all these insights. So over time, as you go through this activity, this insight service surfaced just keeps building, right? Ownership gap, retirement, of this person, there's a model gap, there's unknown unknowns, right? There's a process gap. Like, all this just keeps building, and because you kept every transcript and every summary, you can refer back to when that happened, who said it, what time, all of it. It's all tracked because you're building it in this repository, right? So the quality guys and everybody like that, or the for auditing. Oh my God, it's awesome because you're just constantly. Yeah, see, so this is all making all its changes. Yeah, come on. So let's go back to this while that runs. So these are the steps. So we're gonna eventually approve that. So yeah, this is that questions markdown file is what keeps the current state. So you can drop this, not do anything with it for a month or two or whoever long, bring it back up, start scheduling those interviews, or when someone leaves or when whatever happens, you just feed it in there. It updates this and it tells you you know, where we were at. Nobody has to keep it current, right? Because it knows how current it is. Um, yeah, so the VTT goes in and this falls out, right? Or whatever, type of transcript you have, you just feed it in and it's text so it can process it. In the same way, there's a bunch of AI tools that are coming up with a summary. We're just coming up with a summary and then taking action on all that because we're feeding it that ridiculous prompt. And the well, actually, let's come back to that. I want to finish this first. Okay, come refresh. Man, he's doing a lot of stuff. Refresh Tom's brief and add Dana's. Yeah. So sometimes, you go to get information from this guy, he gives you another guy. And then that guy gives you another guy. And round we go. Or in a session with Tom or Dana, you don't get all the information, you run out of time, so you don't get through all the questions, so you got to schedule another session. Well, in that next session, we redo the questions and update because it knows what we covered and what we didn't cover, and that sometimes flushes out more questions, and just round and round and round we go until eventually you have a knowledge base for all of your processes or all of your applications, whatever it is that you want to document. And for I think from like a continuous improvement point of view, this is often where you get stuck because the first step is documenting the current state. Well, if you could document the current state faster, and really only the bottleneck, I mean, this has taken a little bit longer, but the bottleneck is me at the moment. But if I was replaced by an agent that was doing all these interviews, and you could scale that across 50 agents all interviewing 50 people at a time, you'd get all this information out of your SMEs in your business very quickly and probably be able to iterate faster, right? Right now, I'm just the meat puppet. It tells me, right, from processing them and updating the documents, it tells me what I need to, what I need, what was, who's next, right, is in the question register, right? What I need to ask is in the brief, and then I approve the changes, which you'll see in a second, and then I go do the talk, and then process it, and round we go. If we had the agent doing the talk part, right, and it's already processing, it's already doing 4 out of 5 of these steps, or yeah, 5 out of 6 of the steps. It just needs to be in the interview. I don't, I wouldn't, I could probably, with enough development time, I could add them to the meeting. They do all the questions. They get the transcript, and round we go. And they can all, Copilot can already schedule meetings and stuff. So I mean, it's easy. So yeah, look at this. Yeah, is it done yet? Thought for 1 second he's gonna give me the ridiculous summary. Like this would, how long would this take a person? Look at all these changes to all this different stuff, right? It changed 4 different applications. It made the branch, right? Uncommitted, unmerged. So, authored changes. Yeah, yeah. So, not done. Yeah, do. And what I usually do with Claude Code is, you know, commit and push, right? I mean, I could write my own commit message and do this, but it writes better ones. So it'll write all of what changed with this iteration, right, in a nice, pretty commit message, and then push it up to GitHub, and then on GitHub or your GitLab or ADO or Jira, whatever you wanted to use. This is just an example with GitHub. It doesn't, the stack doesn't really matter, I would say, but it's more the method, the methodology of it, and the flywheel, as I call it. Okay, so git push. Let's let this finish. Let me look at it. Okay. Wonder why he left these changes. Yeah. Why did you leave that? Clean tray. Choose trace files. Failed to commit. Oh, we're just gonna remove them. Okay then. So this branch is pushed up here, and we should see it here. Yep, so this is our new branch. This is where the human approval part of it comes in. Okay. Okay, can't automatically merge, right? So it wrote all this, what changed. Let's just create this. 21 files changed. So then, for the guy that's approving this, he, wants to go through. Okay, what do we add? What do we change on the system landscape? We added that. We got rid of this. We added this. We changed this. We changed this. Where's our diagrams? Yeah, so we added this. This is the important bit, right? It added an integration that we didn't know about. Now we do, right? So why do I have merge conflicts? Solve. Yeah, because we're generating. Accept current changes. Mark this resolve. Commit merge. Yeah, we were messing around while it was doing it. Okay, so ready to merge. So it'll do the merge. So it's running the validate, right? Make sure everything that we change is legit. Okay. Then we do the merge. watch this happen. If it must probably might already be done. Okay, yep. So there we go. We can click on this, watch it do its thing. This is that ridiculous YAML job running. Okay, what's our warning? Yeah, whatever. It's fine. See? So it's good. So that should publish back, right? It's a Git repository. It should update itself. Oh wait, no, we gotta switch back to main. Let's switch. Where's my main branch? This is all just regular Git stuff here. But so we resync back to main. So we branched, we made all our changes, and then we switch back to main and we start over again. And this should change. Yep, see this? Look. So now we have a REST API and a database link. So this image, I didn't change it, right? It changed it. And same with the like all of those changes that happen, right? They were all in here, right? And the rendered, like I'll just call this rendered by the all applications. Like I don't change, I don't go in here and manually change this. The AI editing the raw files plus the pipeline auto generating this stuff, and it changes it, right? Automatically, auto magically, right? So yeah. And finally, last but not least, what you're doing when you're doing that, when you're documenting this, and it's all automated and beautiful, you're building a context for the AI. So we can I can tell Claude to read this, right? Okay, read the context and applications, and show us the gaps, right? Like stuff like that. It can go and read all about everything that you have in here, and then you can use that for the insights past what the insights were just generated. Like if you had every process for your business, it would know all the processes of your business, and you could plop whatever different model on top of that and do, whatever you want. Use the large language model, right? So, yeah, it's not, you could do the same thing with just a chat GPT or any model on the internet, but it won't have the context that this agent that is fed all of this information will have. And you actually remove one of the major limitations of an LLM by giving it the context, right? You make it way better, not just processing all the files, but to give you insights and to prepare good information and not hallucinate everything by building this documentation, right? That's the money right there. Not only did you document your whole system quickly by just pulling it out of people's heads, you also built a context that you can then use for continuous improvement, and you can use the AI to help you with the continuous improvement. And as you go round and round we go, the better context creates sharper drafts, right? And better questions because it knows more about, it knows who the players are, it knows what the processes are, it's been doing it, it builds up skills, and then it's used where it is, the AI is used where it's good at, right? It's good at reading messy transcripts and generating, well, that's bad. So it pulling out the little teeny weeny bits of good information out of a 5,000 line transcript, finding the contradictions across all the information, the gaps. It doesn't actually decide anything, it doesn't approve anything, it doesn't publish anything, and it didn't invent anything from thin air because everything that it changes, right, goes through this Git pull request policy, and you see it, right? Every different change to the repository gets a click by and reviewed by a real person. So if it made something that wasn't right, you would just go back in, change it, and redo the pull request. All the rest of it isn't, you can just skip right to that part because that's the human, you know, does the approval, and this is really the future, right? We're just approving what the agents create. So yeah, I did in my company. I did 45 interviews in 6 days and reduced the risk on a pretty major project. But yeah, this isn't. It's not a. It's not a continuous improvement tool or modeling tool or pipeline. It's not any of that, right? It's just a repository and a methodology to, you know, do this, right? So here it is. Take it apart. MIT license. If you want to reach out to me, message me. If you don't want to do this in your shop, have at it. Thank you.